I knew the family members were that actually handed over their family and gave up their names to the security forces at the time, which included multiple intelligence groups, but mainly driven by NIA, who had infiltrated the Boeramag and actually had agents within the group. And I can tell you now unemphatically that most of these groups are heavily infiltrated by NIA agents. And most things within South Africa is infiltrated with intelligence agents. So if you think that you are immune to this, you have no idea what you're talking about. Now, I could look in at NIA from the outside with what I was involved with, and they often created severe problems for me. So I'm not extremely fond of the organization. It's not that I'm against the concept of a national intelligence agency. Let's just say that I have a problem with how they recruit and how they actually train people, because many of these people are complete and utter amateurs. And they leave a trace as long as your arm. I mean, which national intelligence agency advertises their services on national TV? But apparently ours do. But that's a topic for another video. What I want to discuss with regards to the Boeramag bombings in the 2000s is the fact that they did this because of a belief based on what Siener Van Rensburg said, who they revere as a Boer prophet, and therefore believe that all the predictions that was made in this book of Adrian Snyman need to come true. And this is where the ideological problem lies. Because one man's interpretation of visions is now being used as a belief system for execution. And this is extremely problematic. Because as I've discussed before, I discussed with Adrian Snyman some of the things that I thought in his book that were gross errors. My dad certainly spoke to him and said that he had made many mistakes, and many of the other people that I know in the Israel Vision group, who, as I said before, I became good friends with, believe that many of these things were misinterpreted. And many of these people were waiting for a time where they would have to either defend themselves or that a time would come where there would be a fight for justice. And you know, most people will be able to understand that and support something like that. But there were certain people that were willing to go and blow up very good functioning things. And in the case of the Boeramag, they were going to blow up a person. Because in this book on Siener Van Rensburg, Adrian Snyman said that a black leader was going to die, a very prominent black leader, and that there was going to be a funeral, as mentioned before, where people would come from all over the world. And these people wanted to make this happen. And then stop another prediction, which is the Nacht of the Lang Messe, the night of the long knives, where people from the townships were supposed to go all over the so-called white areas and attack and kill white people all in one big event that they believe is being planned, called Uhuru and many other things. Now, these plans have been made in the past. I will not deny this, because as much as I investigated extremist groups that wanted to do something to Kuburg where I worked, I also investigated extremist leftist groups. And many of these groups, or just plain terrorist organizations, many of these groups knew what was happening on the other side. So the extreme left groups were playing on the emotions of the extreme right-wing groups and vice versa. So they would be able to thwart any of these attacks if they wanted to, unless it was sudden and no one expected it. And this Boeramag attack achieved exactly that, except for one thing. They were heavily infiltrated by the National Intelligence Agency. And the person that actually recommended that they take these actions was an agent. And this is something that the public would generally not know. This will not come out in court cases, but I'm making it plain and simple to you now. And I feel that when intelligence agencies get involved in organizations that can become extreme and make suggestions, that is just plain wrong. Why plant ideas in people's minds and then encourage them to do it? What kind of a sick ideology is that? So I have a huge problem with what NIA did at the time. And obviously, as we know from history now, what the Burumag wanted to do at the time was kill Nelson Mandela and then thwart the attempts of the so-called black masses to enter the white areas and kill them all off. So they wanted to thwart this prophecy that they believed was going to come true. How did they do this? They planted bombs on bridges, railway lines, and many other things. And as we know, one person died because of this when a piece of railway line landed within a shack and killed a lady, a human, which is murder. And many of these men obviously ended up going to jail. Many of their family actually gave them up. Many of them don't even know that their family gave them up. I'm making this apparent to you right now. Now, many of them are still sitting in jail and will probably stay there for the rest of their lives. What a waste of a life. Many of these people were highly intelligent. Many of them had wives and kids. I want to stop things like that from happening in future. It's not right. And especially because it's based on someone else's interpretation of things that he believed that Siener Van Rensburg saw. And now I'll tell you what basically happened on the day. So they had planted all these bombs that went off over a period of time. The communication wasn't that good because on the day Nelson Mandela was supposed to be killed. And how that was supposed to happen is as he was traveling to a charity event, there was a vehicle parked next to the road that he traveled on, a back road, and this vehicle was supposed to blow up and kill him in the process. And then, because of this death of this leader, they believed that then the black masses would rise up and go into the white neighborhoods to try and attack them. That is why they blew up the railway lines and the bridges to stop them from being able to enter the white areas then and then thwart this so-called prophecy. Absolute madness what went down. Because this group was infiltrated by NIA, Nelson Mandela at the last minute took a helicopter ride to his event and did not pass by this vehicle loaded with explosives, which thwarted the entire plan that the Burumag had. Well, as we know, Nelson Mandela later died himself. And at the time of his death, there is something very important that happened because I had feared that if another prediction comes true, that the extreme right wing would actually act. And it's been a concern of mine for most of my life. And that is irrational extremist actions because of what Siener Van Rensburg saw and other people interpreted that he saw and wrote in a book. And one of these things was the glass coffin scenario. And the day that I heard about the glass coffin, like I said, I turned stone cold. I couldn't believe it. I actually spoke to someone else at Kuburg Nuclear Power Station that I had confided in. At the time, she knew about my operations within intelligence. And besides her, there were two other people. The operations manager at the time, who's in the United Arab Emirates right now, as well as my shift manager. Because I had permission to leave at short notice and they would have to get crew in to actually replace me. And there were 3 occasions where I had to do this. So I needed the help and protection of the operations manager at the time, and he was approached by intelligence and he had to sign documentation to protect me within the relevant bounds of what was required. And I remember when I spoke to this specific person, who was very much a crux for me at the time, the only person I could really speak to. And I will forever be grateful for this person for giving me that time to be able to explain to them how I felt. Because working in the control room can sometimes be stressful enough, not most of the time, but sometimes, especially during events. And then I still had all of this on my mind. It was a heavy burden to carry. And this person was a real help. And I really, if they watch this video, I do appreciate everything that you did for me at that time. But when I shared this news with them, they were also absolutely shocked. The fact that here is someone that I knew by chance actually predicting, or that I know now, predicting or saying making this prediction come true by saying that we should make Nelson Mandela lay in state in a glass coffin. And the first thing I said is, this cannot happen. I have to stop this. And I did. I made sure that Nelson Mandela did not lie in state in a glass coffin. There's many other things with regards to his death that I had to manipulate so that extremist groups don't go over into action that would damage them and many other people. And I have been doing this for a very long time, like I said, up until 2010. So I've not been involved in any intelligence activities for the past 10 years, and I want to keep it that way. I have done very specific things to remove myself from those circles, because I really believe that we can change our country if everyone works together. And that is very important and a very difficult thing to do as well, because there are extreme leftist groups that are terrorists. The actions that they plan are terrorist actions. But none of the actions that the right-wing groups believed would happen because of what was interpreted from Siener Van Rensburg's visions will happen. They've been taken care of. And if I can make that one message clear, then this video would have been worth the effort. Like I said, I will make very specific videos on the life of Siener Van Rensburg, the various things that he said, the various things that he saw. And I want to make it clear, I do believe that he had a birth gift to see certain things, and there's ample evidence for that. Ample evidence. Based on his life, the things that he saw, the things that were obvious. There were certain things that Siener declared himself with regards to what he saw. There were other things that he didn't declare, and other people's attempts to interpret that has caused many people a lot of grief. And I want people, if they have the book, The Boerprofeet, or Siener Van Rensburg, Boerprofeet, to look at it with kids' gloves and look at the interpretation, not from an ideological or what you would like perspective, but from the perspective that I'm explaining to you now. That someone studied the work and life of Siener Van Rensburg, spoke to some of the people that knew him. Since he was a very nice person, I met him in person, like I said before, and I believe he had good intentions, real fears. However, the after effects have been far-reaching. It's caused people to go to jail. His house has been raided I don't know how many times, and that can't be nice. I know of many people whose homes have been raided by the security police and many other people that I've never been involved with. And it's been worrying to me how people's lives have been ruined and affected in a big way, their livelihoods, because of one book written. And I can tell you now that Siener wouldn't have wanted any of this. He didn't believe he was a prophet. And like I said, I will cover those details in another video specifically on his life. But to this day, the interpretations of the things that Siener saw is still affecting us. And there's still people that believe that Coburg will explode. There's still people that believe that another black leader will die violently. There's people that believe that we will lose all power in our country, and that this night of the long knives will then start. Although people are getting confused between Johanna Brandt's visions and those of Siener Van Rensburg. Now I know this video has had two parts, part 1 and part 2, and that it's been quite long. I've left out many things for obvious reasons, and if it's not obvious to you, security, people's safety is vital to me. And it's important to know that most of the intelligence work I was involved in was to safekeep people. No one ever had to be arrested, because you could work with people and help them see things in a different way and steer them in the right direction. Some of those families that were involved in building bombs that they wanted to use to blow up pylons, they were infiltrated by people in the area, which I didn't know at the time. I found out about that later, and they were given an option to leave the country, to go and live in Southwest Africa, which is what they did. So if you handle intelligence in a good way, it doesn't have to be, as Cyril Ramaphosa says, skop, skiet en donder at all. A good intelligence person will ensure that absolutely nothing is visible, noticeable, or seen at all. So you could have people working for intelligence within your family, within your company, within your bank. The person sitting behind the bank teller could be working for intelligence. You wouldn't even know about it. They could just be providing information and many other things. So intelligence is a huge part of South African culture, a lot more than you can ever imagine. And this is where the New World Order ideology becomes a problem, because this complete control over our lives is a huge problem, and I will fight it to the day I die. And with my detailed knowledge, which I cannot all share with you, I draw on that knowledge and experience when I explain news events to you, when I do in the news with you. And I'm not asking you to watch all the in the news articles, but I am watching you to watch all the 00 Days videos as well as the Question Everything series of videos. It's very important that you do that. And to get updates on this and to form the big puzzle, you need to watch them all. Look at the thumbnail. I put clues in the thumbnail. And as you listen to the different videos, you'll start tying things together in a way that you've never been able to tie them together before. As Siener Van Rensburg saw things unfold within the world, not just South Africa, it'll become clear to you the events that will still unfold in this country and how absolutely accurate this Umi saw so many different things. Because you will only know when it happens that he had been right. You cannot predict what will happen in the future because of what he saw, and he said that himself. And I leave you on this note. Please subscribe to this channel, and you can click on the bell icon so that you can get notifications of new videos. If you don't know how to subscribe, at the bottom right hand corner of all my videos you'll see a little subscribe icon. You just click on that. It doesn't cost any money, and the more subscribers I have, the more we can get the information out to the rest of the world, because all of this ties into the New World Order ideology. The New World Order is not an organization, and my next video I will actually cover that. Besides that, I will cover specific videos on specific people within South Africa, and Bheki Cele is next on the list. And unfortunately it might disappoint many people, but you will hear the truth from me as it is. I'm not going to beat around the bush at all. Thanks for those of you that have contacted me. Thanks for listening to this video and how Siener Van Rensburg and what this Umi saw has affected my life in a big way, still affecting it to this day. And I will still explain in many other videos the detail around what happened with each and every one of these events. Thank you for listening. Remember to subscribe. Please leave comments. I won't be able to get to all of them at this stage. It's just too many. I will give a main comment at the top that you can read, that will give you information with regards to follow-ups or the bulk of your questions. I will answer those within that comment. Thank you for all your suggestions. Thank you for all those people that are contacting me. I'm actually meeting with someone today at 11 o'clock, someone that was a senior official within government. People are really reaching out and becoming part of this movement and momentum to change our government. Because Siener saw a new government, that this dispensation had passed. And this is the good news, because I believe he really saw this. So there is good news lying ahead for us. If we all stand together, then we will be victorious. But remember, we have to include all the people of South Africa that think alike. This is not a color thing. This is not a race thing. This is not a religion thing. And those of you that think that, you are making yourself exclusive, and you are not part of the solution. You are a part of the problem.